whirlwind trip here in Israel. They really took you all across the country.
I want to thank my good friend Dr. Joseph Frager for bringing me. It was an amazing trip. I had an opportunity to meet so many different people, politics, religion, business, media. I mean, it was just an amazing experience for me.
So that's exactly, you're coming right to the final question. This is it. You were just at the last place. From here, you're going to dinner and then off to Ben Gurion Airport to fly home. What are you taking from this visit? For a quick day visit, what do you take?
You know, listen, I've been to Israel 3 times. This is my 3rd trip, but I think this has been the most monumental trip for me because I've had the opportunity to interact with a very broad cross-section of people. The first trip I came here as an American tourist at the age of 21. I crossed through the Rafah border from the Sinai Peninsula and took a bus up to Jerusalem and stayed in a hostel. The name of the hostel was the King David Hostel. It probably doesn't even exist anymore. So to go from the King David...
It wasn't the King David Hotel?
No. To go from the King David Hostel to the King David Hotel, that's part of the American dream, or maybe the Israeli dream. So for me, this has been an amazing experience to see the country, see the diversity of growth and technology, commerce, to understand a lot about the plurality and the democracy here. It's been fantastic.
Amazing. And with your permission, I just want to touch upon some of the places I know you've gone to. Mm-hmm. I know one day, I think your first day, you started off at Yad Vashem, yes. Jerusalem Holocaust Memorial. What thoughts do you have after going through that?
Well, you know, listen, it was very hard not to be moved to tears in a situation like that where you see this human tragedy. I think that when God made the earth, and I was telling Joe this, He made the earth perfect, but He left it incomplete for all of us to finish. And the biggest crime and the biggest sin that you can create is a crime against a friend or a murder. And the notion that a sovereign nation would build a system of organized murder like that and do it so indiscriminately to so many innocent people, it's just devastating to see the magnitude of it. And it's a stain on mankind that frankly should never go away. It's a unbelievable museum of remembrance. It's a message to the future about history and the need to make sure that this sort of history, this sort of dark time for humanity, forget about just the Jewish people, but it's a stain on humanity, because when you think about so many people that had the opportunity to act to end that devastation, end the killing of innocents that didn't act, and we think about our times today, to have apathy against human rights violations, or to have apathy against genocide or things like that, it's a great museum to remind us to never forget and to never again let things happen like that. So I was incredibly moved there. Remember, if 6 million Jews died and possibly another 5 million gypsies and other denominations, if you think of the 11 million people, if you think of the loss to mankind of all of that great literature, the arts, the culture, the science, the innovation, the families that could have celebrated Shabbat or Christmas or whatever it might have been, it's absolutely devastating. And so it was very heart-rendering. And I just was very glad to be there and very glad to hold that candle of remembrance and to share it with other people.
Yeah, and I know right from there, like from a modern tragedy, then you went to history. We took you to the Western Wall tunnels and to the foundation of the temple and the Temple Mount. So what are you taking from that visit? Was that your first time there?
Well, it was my first time in the tunnels. Not my first time to the Western Wall, but to go into the tunnels and actually see the magnitude of construction that took place 2,000 plus years ago is just unbelievable.
Right.
But what's interesting about that is that when you think about where we are today and where we were back then, it's not all that different. You know, Herod at the end of the day was making a statement for the generation of the contemporaries, the people that were living with him, but he knew the magnitude and the majesty of what he was creating was something that we would be holding for many generations. So here we are 2,000 plus years later, and my guess is there'll be 2,000 years from today, someone will walk into that temple, or maybe it'll be fully excavated by then, and they'll look at those tunnels and say, wow. mankind had this ability to create, man and womankind, this ability to create, and our technology is getting better, but our ambition is probably the same.
Right, and it's interesting because here you mentioned Herod. Herod built the Temple Mount. Unfortunately, the temple was destroyed. We don't see the grandeur of that building, but then you were taken to his other grandeur building that still stands today, Ma'arat HaMachpelah in Hebron.
It was an amazing experience to see that. Amazing experience to learn that history, and obviously that is still completely in the state that it was 2,000 years ago. And it's just a massive monument, and so it was beautiful. It was great to be there. One of my friends, interestingly enough, his mom had died 2 years ago, and so I guess we said Kaddish.
Yes. So wow, that's right.
We had enough people in the room, in the prayer room, and so just think of the magnitude. He walked out of there and said to me, I can't think of a more holy place to say a prayer of remembrance to my mom in a situation like that. So it was really wonderful.
Right, that was at the tomb of Abraham and Sarah, yeah. Mm-hmm. And today I think you saw a lot of business and where joint Arabs and Israelis, Jews and Muslims work together. Mm-hmm. What did you see that you didn't know, or maybe you did know? What do you take from that in the Samaritan Hills?
What I take from that is that we have to sort of put aside the politics and really think about human beings and people. Whatever the animosities or the antagonisms are in this area of the world, and they could date back for many centuries. For me, visiting some of the commercial sites that I saw, it gives me great hope. It fills me with great optimism about the area. Because what we know about human beings is they get closer to each other, they realize that they have more in common, and they share more things related to love than they do to hate. And when you think about it, let's just put everything aside. We share the same earth, but we drink the same water, we breathe the same air, and so to see people that have different religious perspectives or different cultural histories in terms of the way they were raised, working together, getting along with each other, loving each other, and having that commitment to each other, I really hope that we can put aside the politics and focus on that human connection and that human interaction. And so I left those areas today very optimistic about the future.
Oh, that's wonderful. All right, 2 final questions. I know we have to get out of here. Final message to Israelis, to the Jews after this visit.
Well, I would say a couple of things. Number one, you have a tremendous amount of friends out there that you have Christian friends and many denominational friends. Number two, I say this as an outsider, as a citizen of the United States, but also from a family of immigrants to the United States, that there is an Israeli dream here, that it's very much still alive. It's a fantastic country, and whatever your differences are in terms of your democracy or the pluralistic nature of this society, take it from me, an outsider who's had the opportunity to build some reasonably successful businesses. Take it from me, you should be so proud of what you've created here over the last 70 years, but the best is yet to come for this nation. The best is yet to come for the spirit of your religious faith. And you got a lot of friends out there, and so I look forward to returning to Israel. I don't want it to be next year in Jerusalem. I want it to be next week or next month in Jerusalem.
Amazing. Well, let's make it happen.
And so I'm looking forward to that.
Amazing. And final question.
It's really great to be here.
We all know there's a lot of fake news, a lot of misinformation about Israel that people are fed on a daily basis. All ages they're fed, especially on college campuses. What message do you have to the non-Jews and around the world about the truth about Israel?
Well, listen, I mean, I've been the victim of fake news. I've been the victim of characterization. People have tried to two-dimensionalize me, to quiet my voice, quiet my advocacy, whether it's for the president, for Israel, for whatever it might be, my political philosophy. And I would say this, I'm optimistic about that as well, because people in general have now developed a husk or a level of thick skin of cynicism related to the manipulation that's now taking place in the media. And so it's great to be able to talk directly to people over Facebook or Periscope, and to speak directly. And so what I would say to people, follow your true heart. You know the difference between right and wrong. All of us are and maybe this is a gift from God, in our genes. I think God gave us the creation through His unconditional love to give us the freedom of choice to choose between good and evil, but He also hot-wired us and designed us to really feel what is good in a society versus what is bad. And so Israel is a force for good. It's a part of our civilization. It's a permanent part of our civilization. And whatever those voices are that are out there that are against Israel, see through the cynicism of that. Know that it's a land of peace. Know that it's a land of prosperity. And it's also a land of inclusion. And I think that you're doing a good job of that, Avi, and there's other media outlets that are doing a good job of that. But we have to continue that. We have to progress that. And we have to rebut some of the nonsense that's out there.
100%.
Primarily that nonsense is born from hatred and jealousy.
Sure.
And I would tell those people, stop whining, get up and get a job, and go to work, and build yourself. And that's where your self-esteem ultimately comes from, is from your own work ethic, as opposed to waiting for other people to help you.
100%. Anthony, thank you so much. Thanks for your visit.
Unbelievable experience.
Looking forward to seeing you again.
Great to be here.
All right, looking forward. Thanks everyone for watching.
I don't appreciate the fact that there was no hair and makeup for this, but I'm okay with it.
I'm sorry, next time I'll work on it. Next time.
I'm on like 4 hours of sleep and so forth.
Vanity
is killing me.
Really great. Thanks everyone for watching. Shalom from Jerusalem, everyone. Take care.